Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Bella Edgley and I'm an artist based in the south of England. My YouTube channel is all about using watercolour in a contemporary, semi-abstract and abstract way. Today I'm going to be talking about how I made these two paintings in my sketchbook, and the aim was to try and generate some new ideas and also look at new colour combinations. So I actually used this painting as my starting point. What I liked about it was the use of the more neutral grey colours and also the combination of the granulating paints and the smoother paints. So although I did end up going a little bit more warmer with my neutrals, this is the sort of starting point for me. I didn't mask the edges off of this painting, so it needs cropping and finishing. So I'm hoping by showing my process that I might be able to give you some ideas of how to approach sketchbook painting and also thinking about colour. You might have your own way of doing it. I'd be interested to hear about it in the comments. And I don't know whether you swatch your watercolours, but I really like to use these big swatches. It makes it possible to really see what's going on with the paint, and you can tell if the paint's granulating or not, and you can move them around to compare the colours. And what I'll do at the end of my painting session, when I've decided which colours I like, I'll make some swatches like this quickly just to show you how I do them. Okay, but let's get on with the painting now. Okay, so I'm just masking off my area here, and I'm going to be doing a painting that feels like a landscape to start with. I'm going to be using quite big, bold shapes and just laying down the colour, and I'm going to be using that to compare my colours and to see what combinations of colours I like. So I'm using some single pigment granulating colours such as cerulean blue, which are a bit more common, but I've also been experimenting a bit with some other granulating paints at the moment, and the one that I'm using mostly for these two sketches is a Daniel Smith, and it's called Bloodstone Genuine. And I tried mixing this with different colours, and at the end when I do the swatches I'll talk about which colour combinations I decided I liked the most. So like I said, I'm really trying to get a nice contrast between the textures of the paint, and I do add in a medium called aqua pasta, which I think makes the paint a bit smoother, and I think that contrasts really nicely when you put a more granulating paint down. For example, here I've mixed the Bloodstone Genuine in with some burnt sienna, and I was kind of matching this colour that I had on my previous painting that I really liked, and I'm pretty certain that this is that colour. So I was really happy that I did manage to identify that. So in terms of the composition, I'm kind of concentrating my darker rock-like shapes to the left as if it's a coastline or something. And I'm being a bit unconventional because I'm actually laying down quite a few of my darker colours before the lighter colours. I identified this blue at the bottom of this painting that I really liked, and that's cerulean blue. And it's got a tiny bit of burnt sienna poking through, but I'm going to be using that cerulean blue on this painting. I just think that it's a really nice subtle colour, especially if you lay it down quite thin. And as you can see, when I lay my colours down, I'm laying them down more or less in one brush stroke. I'm not scrubbing over the area too much. I think that's a really nice quality in watercolour, is when you just lay the paint down and you then let it move around without messing with it too much. So for that I'm using a fairly wide brush. It's a size 16, and I will put information in the description about exactly which one it is. I'm using a combination of wet on wet and wet on dry, but I've just put a bit of water down there, and I really want to get a really dark colour down. I'm putting my Paynes grey just to add a nice tonal contrast, and I'm kind of rolling my brush. I'm just sort of trying to see what different types of brush marks and effects I can get. Okay, so like I said, I've approached this in a little bit of an unconventional way because I've really got very dark paint down, and now it's time to put a little bit of lighter paint on the right. And I mixed up quite a sort of neutral grey, and I just put a strip of that along the middle, and then I really felt like the painting needed a bit of a warmer colour, and I bought this buff titanium recently and I was super keen to try it out, so I'm just laying that on in the top right hand corner, and was quite a surprise to use this paint. I think it's almost a bit like a gouache because it's certainly slightly opaque. It's almost, I don't know if it's got a bit of white in it, but it's actually really nice and quite a bright colour. So I was really happy with the combination of the buff titanium with these other colours that I'd used, and especially with the granulating paint. And I then actually also added a little bit on the top left, which is a sort of translucent grey mixed with some gouache paint. I didn't film painting that, but that was quite a nice finish to the painting, and I'm just going to take the tape off now. Okay, so I'm really happy with how this painting turned out, and I really feel like it's given me some ideas for some future paintings. Now, for this next one, I'm going to do a bit more of a kind of botanical feel. I'm going to do it in a portrait format, and I'm going to concentrate my shapes towards the bottom and do a larger area with the granulating paint towards the top. Now, I'm using the same principle. I'm laying my colours down in blocks, and I'm trying not to go over the areas too much, and I'm really thinking about the contrast between the paints in terms of textures and colours as well. But I'm going to put the music up while I do this, and then I'll jump in again at the end when I do the swatches. Okay, so this is finished and I'm just taking the tape off, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out as well. I have used very similar colours. There's a little bit more of the burnt sienna in this one showing, but both of these are going to be great to refer to for future paintings. Okay, so I've identified 8 different colours down here. 5 of them are pure colours and 3 of them are mixes. I've got these 4 very common colours already made up. That's burnt sienna, cobalt blue, yellow ochre and cerulean blue. And I need to make the burnt sienna with Bloodstone genuine, the Paynes grey and phyllo blue, the buff titanium, and this last one here I've put cerulean blue and yellow ochre, but I know that this colour is actually phyllo blue and yellow ochre, so I'm going to change that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show how I make all of them, but I'll speed it up for the last 3, and for the first one I'll do a mix of burnt sienna and Bloodstone genuine. Okay, so I've got my paint here and I'm just going to add a tiny bit of water to that. And what I do is I put quite a thick band across the top that doesn't have much water in it. And that's really a very dark colour, because that Bloodstone genuine is almost a black when you use it with hardly any water. And I'm just going to add a little bit more water to that mix, and I'll do a second band. I'm not being too precious about it, but I'm trying to show the different tonal variations you can get. And then for the final band I'll just use pure water and that should pull some of that paint down. And then I just leave a gap at the bottom, and that's where I write in what the paint colour is. So that's that one done. I'm going to leave it and not mess with it, and I'll just do the other three. Okay, so that's it. I've now got these 4 new swatches, and combined with these previous 4, I've got a pretty good idea of the different colours used for this second painting here. I'm trying to arrange these on the desk so that you can see it all. I really hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. If you did, please hit like, and if you'd like to see similar videos in the future, then please subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you, bye.